You're not supposed to be here. Even with the sun still clinging to the sky outside, the inside of the abandoned textile factory feels like night, thick, cold, unmoving. You stand just past the warped metal doorway, breathing air that tastes like rusted bolts and forgotten years. Your flashlight beam cuts through the dust like a knife, and every floating speck looks like it's falling in slow motion. Your phone still vibrates faintly in your pocket, your editor's last message: "Don't waste time, get the photos and get out." You told them you would. But something feels wrong the moment you step inside. The silence isn't empty, it's listening. A low, soft sound echoes down from one of the deeper hallways, something between a whine and a breath. You freeze. Your fingers tighten around the flashlight, knuckles whitening. Then the sound comes again. A dog. Not barking, not growling, just waiting. Your light trembles across piles of collapsed fabric rolls and rusted frames until it reaches a shape crouched under a broken skylight. Dust drifts down like pale snow, outlining the silhouette. A dog sits perfectly still. Not starved, not wild, not frightened. Just watching you. Golden eyes reflect your beam with an unsettling familiarity, as if it already knows you, knows the shape of your footsteps, the way your breath slows when you're unsure, the slight tilt of your head when you're trying to remember something you should already know. "You lost, buddy," you whisper, your voice barely more than the shifting dust. The dog doesn't move, not even a twitch. Its fur, matted but not filthy, ripples only when the faint wind slips through the cracked glass overhead. You take a step toward it. It stands. Not defensively, not hostile. More like a guard moving into position. A faint scraping noise trembles through the floor beneath you, metal against concrete, a dragging sound, steady and deliberate, coming from somewhere deeper inside the building. The dog's ears flatten, its gaze shifts to the darkness behind it, then it looks back at you, urgent, almost pleading, and takes one slow step backward as if inviting you to follow. The rasping sound grows louder. You swallow hard, the taste of iron coats your tongue. Your instincts scream to leave, forget the story, forget the assignment, forget everything. But something about the dog's impossible calm roots you in place. You follow. The floor groans as the dog disappears into a hallway lined with shattered windows. Your boots crunch over torn fabric scraps and broken bobbins. The hallway narrows, walls bending inward, as if the building has begun to collapse around you. Then the dog stops at a corroded machine, loom-like but massive, with gears bigger than your torso. Your flashlight catches on a slit in the metal, a panel slightly ajar. Inside, barely visible, is a thin, leather-bound book. A diaries. Your heart thuds once, heavy, offbeat, as if something in your chest recognizes the object before your mind can catch up. The dog sits beside the machine. Its breathing slows. It lowers its head, nudging the metal panel with its snout. You pull it open. The hinges scream. Your flashlight spills across the leather cover, and a dried flower pressed against it, pale yellow, fragile, almost perfectly preserved. You touch it. A jolt surges through you, sharp, electric, wrong. Not painful. Not pleasant. Familiar. Your breath stumbles in your throat as the room flickers, only for half a second, but long enough for your surroundings to fracture into two overlapping images. The empty factory around you now, and the same room alive decades ago. Not in detail. Not in clarity. Just shapes, colors, movement. Shadows of workers. Laughter. A hand pushing a flower into your palm, your younger hand. And the same dog, smaller, cleaner, tail wagging wildly. You blink and everything snaps back. The dog watches you with an expression no animal should have, something like recognition layered with relief. A burst of cold wind surges through the hallway, flipping the diary open to its first page. Your flashlight trembles over the ink. A name is written there. Your name. Not your byline. Not your nickname. Your full legal name, the one almost no one knows. Written in handwriting you've never seen. You step back, air thinning around you. The dog lets out a low, shaky whine, something between warning and apology. Your pulse thunders against your ribs. You swallow, but your mouth has gone dry. A metallic crash erupts deeper in the factory, loud enough to make the floor vibrate. Something else is in here. The dog jolts to its feet, placing itself between you and the darkness. Your flashlight flickers. The wind stops. And then, a voice faint and trembling echoes down the hall. You came back. You phrase. The dog's fur bristles. The diary pages rattle, even though the air has gone still. The voice comes again, closer this time. After all these years, you came back. You don't recognize it, but it recognizes you. Footsteps begin moving toward you, slow and dragging, as if the floor is reluctantly letting them go. You clutch the diary to your chest, breathing shallowly, the dog pressing against your leg like a living anchor. Whatever is approaching knows your name, knows your past, knows something you don't remember. The factory creaks overhead, as if bracing for what's coming. The footsteps stop just beyond the edge of your light. And then a hand reaches into the beam. Not bloody, not monstrous, but trembling, weak, human. Don't leave again, the voice whispers. The dog growls for the first time. A soft, warning rumble that vibrates through your leg. You raise your light slowly, cautiously. But the figure is already gone. Only dust remains, swirling like breath in the cold air. And then you hear it. A heartbeat. Not yours. Not the dog's. A deep, rhythmic thump echoing through the metal frame of the building itself, as if the factory is alive, remembering something with you. You clutch the diary tighter. The heartbeat quickens. The dog nudges your leg once, firm, insistent, then stares down a shadowed stairwell leading underground. Whatever the diary holds, whatever the factory remembers, whatever that voice was, it's waiting for you below. And something inside you, something buried, knows you have to follow. You stand at the top of the stairwell, staring into the dark throat of the building. The air drifting upward is colder than anything inside the factory so far, damp, metallic, touched with something stale that clings to the back of your tongue. The dog waits beside you, not pushing, not pulling, simply watching. Its eyes gleam like molten amber in your trembling flashlight beam. You tighten your grip on the diary. The leather is warmer than it should be, as if it remembers the heat of a hand that held it long before yours. A breath slips out of you, slow, reluctant, and you step onto the first stair. The metal groans under your weight. Another step. Another groans. The dog pads silently behind you. Halfway down, the factory's heartbeat returns, thump, thump faint, like it's pulsing through the bones of the building. Each echo hums through the rail, a vibration that crawls into your fingertips. You try to swallow, but your throat refuses to cooperate. The stairs twist sharply to the left. Your light hits a wall covered in peeling blue paint and something else, chalk marks, childish scribbles barely visible beneath grime. Stick figures. A flower. A dog with a wagging tail. Your stomach lurches with a sick kind of recognition, though you can't place why. You touch the wall, brushing dust away. Your fingertip follows the outline of the dog, a lump forming deep behind your ribs, the kind that has nothing to do with fear. Behind you, the dog whines softly. You keep moving. At the bottom of the stairs, you find a door made of thick metal. A single strip of yellow caution tape hangs across it, torn and brittle. Your light glides over a small sign bolted to the wall. Maintenance floor, authorized personnel only. The bottom half of the sign has been scratched out, deep claw-like gouges exposing shiny steel beneath. You reach for the handle. The dog stiffens. Not stopping you, just bracing. The metal is cold, too cold, painfully cold. You yank your hand back, hissing under your breath. But the door creaks open on its own. Just an inch. Just enough to breathe out a soft, stale gust of air that smells like damp concrete and old thread oil. Your flashlight thins into the open gap, revealing a vast room below, larger than any maintenance floor should be. You push the door wider and step in. The dog follows, staying close to your leg. The room stretches in all directions, filled with rows of hulking machines. Some stand silent and dead, others twitch barely, faintly, like someone once tried to keep them alive long after the world forgot them. Your light catches on something at the far end, a glint of metal, a desk. You approach carefully, weaving between forgotten tools and tangled wires. The desk sits beneath a flickering overhead light, the only functioning light in the entire building. Papers scatter across the surface, curled with age. A rotary phone lies on its side, the cord snapped. And there, half hidden beneath a stack of old maintenance sheets, a photograph. You pull it free. Dust falls away, revealing a young person, maybe 8 or 9, standing in this factory. The skylight above them pours the same pale dust snow you saw earlier. Their smile is wide and bright. A yellow flower is tucked behind their ear. But the detail that punches the breath out of you is the dog sitting beside them. The same dog. Not similar, not related. The same brown patch above the right eye. The same crooked ear. The same gaze. You run your thumb over the photograph's edge. The dog beside you lets out a tiny bark, sharp, urgent. Before you can react, the factory heartbeat stops, and a different sound replaces it. A soft dragging. The same dragging you heard earlier upstairs. But now it's closer. Much closer. You spin, flashlight slicing across the room. The beam trembles over machines, pipes, shadows. The dragging continues. Slow. Deliberate. Coming from behind a line of giant weaving looms. The dog steps in front of you this time, protective, silent. Your pulse thuds so hard your vision stutters. You whisper the only thing you can manage. Who's there? The dragging stops. Silence swells around you, pressing like weight on your lungs. Then, a faint tapping. Metal on concrete. Tap, tap, tap. Not rhythmic, not patterned. More like someone who can barely stand using something, maybe a cane, to keep themselves upright. Your knees weaken. The dog growls low, fur lifting along its spine. You force air into your lungs and grip the flashlight tighter. A few hesitant steps carry you toward the sound. The dog tries to block you, but you edge around it. You reach the loom. You step past it. And your breath hitches violently. There's no person there. Just a long iron rod on the floor, rolling slowly to a stop, as though someone had dropped it seconds before. The dog sniffs the air, ears pinned flat. You crouch, reaching toward the rod, but stop when your eyes catch something else beside it. A footprint. Fresh. Still wet from the damp floor. You swallow hard, your vision wavers. A strange, heavy certainty sinks into you. Whoever was standing here was alive. And they were watching you. The dog suddenly lifts its head, ears pricked. It takes off, paws whispering over the concrete, not running in fear, running with purpose. You stumble after it. Wait, hey, wait. But the dog's faster, weaving through machines toward a hallway on the far side of the room. You chase its shadow through the flickering lights until you reach a narrow corridor lined with pipes. The dog stands at the end, tail rigid, staring at something on the wall. As your light reaches it, you feel your heart seize. There, scratched into the paint in rough, uneven strokes, is your full name. Not recent. Not old either. But familiar. Your knees nearly buckle. Someone here knew you. Someone here expected you to return. Someone here still does. The dog touches the wall gently with its paw, then looks back at you, an expression flickering across its face that no animal should wear. Reassurance. Sadness. Recognition. You press a shaky hand against the letters carved into the wall. The paint flakes under your touch, falling like brittle ash. A light hum begins to vibrate through the pipes overhead, not mechanical, something softer, almost melodic, like a lullaby humming through metal. Your skin prickles. Something about the sound feels right, like it's connected to a memory you're not supposed to reach yet. The dog turns and begins walking toward a half-open door at the end of the corridor. You follow. Inside is a small room, an office maybe. Papers cover the floor like fallen leaves. A single chair sits crooked, as though someone stood up from it too quickly. A calendar hangs on the wall. You lift your light. Your chest constricts. Every date on it is crossed out except one. The date circled in red is today. A gust of wind blasts through the room, whipping papers into a brief chaos. The dog presses against your leg, steadying you. And then you notice something on the desk. Another photograph. Your hand shakes as you reach for it. It shows the same child as before, yellow flower, factory dust, wide smile. And beside the child, a shadow. Tall human. Blurry. Standing over them with a hand on their shoulder. The child's smile is bright. The shadow's face is unreadable. Your stomach sinks. Because even though the face is blurred, you have the sickening feeling. You know who it is. The photograph hangs between your fingers like a fragment of a dream, too familiar to dismiss, too foreign to claim. The child's smile is full of trust. Their small hand grips the edge of a machine you know you've seen before. But the shadow behind them. You tilt the photo, trying to catch more detail in the blur, but the more you look, the more your stomach tightens. Your pulse begins a slow, painful hammering, the kind that makes your vision swim. The dog nudges your knee gently, pulling you back into the moment. You lower the photograph. And for the first time since stepping inside the factory, you realize something undeniable. This place doesn't just contain your past. It's been waiting for you to return to it. A soft tapping echoes down the hall, no dragging this time, no metallic scrape. Just tapping. Too rhythmic to be random. Too light to be machinery. Almost like knuckles. Knocking. You stiffen, the dog whips its head toward the sound, ears perked sharply. It doesn't growl this time. It listens intensely as though it's hearing something beneath the tapping, something you can't. You take a single step toward the hall. The tapping stops. But the air in the corridor shifts, tightening, humming with faint electric tension. You grip the photograph until the edges curl into your palm. The dog moves first, walking slowly toward the door with a cautious confidence, like it knows the layout better than you do. You follow, each step measured, careful. The corridor outside is dimmer than before. Your flashlight trembles as you raise it. The beam feels smaller somehow, swallowed by shadows that clutch the walls. The tapping begins again. Farther down. Deeper inside. You and the dog move toward it like moths pulled to an unseen flame. The hallway twists and narrows until you reach a small iron door with a mesh window. The tapping is louder now, right behind it. A faint breath escapes the gap, drifting across your cheek like chilled fog. You lean closer. Something beyond the barrier moves, slow, deliberate. The dog suddenly presses its paw against the door and whines, not afraid, not warning. More like pleadings. You draw in a shaky breath. Okay, you whisper, together. You grab the latch. It screeches, resisting, as though it hasn't been opened in years. You grit your teeth and pull harder. Rust flakes scatter like brown snow. The door shudders, then finally gives way. The smell hits you first. Old fabric, damp cement, oil that seeped too long into the floor. Then your light cuts through the darkness. And you freeze. The room is filled with machines, but not like the others above. These are smaller, precise, arranged in symmetrical rows like an abandoned laboratory. Glass panels, spindles, blueprint fragments pinned to corkboards. But the thing that punches your breath from your lungs is the table in the center. A projector. A reel still threaded through it. And beside it, your name carved into the metal surface in shaky, uneven letters. You approach slowly. The dog stays close, tail still, body tight. You brush your fingers over the carved letters. They're rough, sharp-edged. Someone did this in a hurry or with trembling hands. You swallow a knot of unease. Why would anyone carve your name here? You run your thumb along the projector's switch. Dust lifts in thin spirals, and the room seems to hold its breath. A soft click echoes as you flip the switch. The projector sputters to life, casting a wavering square of pale light onto the opposite wall. The film begins to move, slow, jittery, crackling softly. Your heartbeat thunders painfully as shapes form. A figure appears on screen. Small, smiling, flower tucked behind their ear. The child, the same from the photographs. They wave at the camera, laughing silently, mouth wide, eyes bright. Then another figure steps into frame. The shadow. You step closer, breath suspended in your throat. The projector hums louder, flickering. The shadow bends down, placing a hand on the child's shoulder. And then, for a single, too brief second, before the frame distorts, the shadow's face becomes clear enough for your mind to register a truth it never prepared for. It's you. Your legs nearly give out. The dog presses into your thigh, steadying you as the edges of your vision blur. You stare at the projection, feeling your heartbeat twist inside your chest like it's trying to claw its way out. The child looks up at the shadow, you, and grins. They mouth a word you can't hear, but it's unmistakable. Come back. Your stomach flips, something icy crawls up your spine. The film stutters. Gips. Freezes. The last frame lingers. The child's hand gripping yours. Your blurred face turned down toward them. Their smile too trusting. Too hopeful. And beneath that frame, etched into the film reel itself, a date. A date from more than 20 years ago. A date you should remember. But you don't. The projector clicks off on its own, plunging the room into silence except for your ragged breathing. You slam your eyes shut, trying to conjure even a flicker of memory. Nothing. Just static. Blank space. A wall in your mind that refuses to crack. You press the heel of your palm against your forehead, pushing until pain blooms across your temples. The dog lets out a soft, worried sound. You look down at it, trying to steady your breathing. I don't understand, you manage. The dog lifts its head, touching its nose to the back of your hand. Warm, steady, real. The only thing in this building that feels real. You sink to a crouch, rubbing its fur with shaky fingers. Were you there, you whisper, when this happened, when he. You can't finish the sentence. Because you don't know who you were. Who that shadow was. What this child meant to you. The dog's ears perk suddenly. It stiffens, turning its head sharply toward the door. You freeze. A sound travels down the hall. Footsteps. Not dragging. Not tapping. Walking. Someone alive. Moving with purpose. Heading straight toward this room. The dog steps in front of you again, protective, bristling lightly. You rise slowly, blood rushing in your ears. Your flashlight shakes in your grip. The footsteps grow louder. Closer. Then they stop. Right outside the door. The hair on your arms rises. A soft voice, fragile, frayed, slips through the gap between door and floor. I told you not to come back alone. Your heart stops. You know that voice. Not from the factory. Not from the photos. Not from the film. From somewhere deeper. From a memory you thought you deburied so thoroughly it could never climb its way out. The doorknob begins to turn. The doorknob turns slowly, too slowly to be accidental. Each metallic click drills into your nerves. You grip the flashlight tighter, fighting the instinct to back away, to hide behind a machine like a frightened child. But the dog doesn't hide. It stands between you and the door, paws braced, shoulders squared, body angled protectively. A low vibration hums in its chest, not a growl, not a threat. A warning. The doorknob pauses at its halfway point, as if whoever is holding it is hesitating, reconsidering, listening. You can't breathe. Who's there, you force out, though your voice sounds like it's coming from someone else, thin, strained. The silence that returns feels alive, pulsing just under your skin. Then the voice speaks again, quiet, tremulous, unmistakably human. I didn't want you to see it like this. It's soft, older, weathered by years of dust and echoes. And it knows you. Your pulse pounds in your neck as the door creaks open an inch. Cold air slips through the gap, brushing against your ankles. The dog tenses so hard you feel it through the floor. A shape stands in the doorway. A silhouette slim, slightly hunched, holding something against one side for balance. A cane, wood worn smooth by time. You can't make out the face, just the outline of someone who seems to have shrunk under years of burden. Your flashlight flickers. The figure raises a hand. Don't be afraid, they whisper. You always were when the machines got too loud. Your stomach twists sharply. You know that sentence. Not from memory. From the way your body reacts, like hearing a lullaby you didn't know you remembered. The figure steps forward into the edge of the light. They're older, much older than the shadow from the film. Lines crease their face like folded paper. Their clothes are worn, covered in thread dust. Their eyes tired, deep, carrying something like apology, lock onto yours. And your legs nearly give way. You know those eyes. Not from a photograph. Not from the film. Not from the factory walls. From somewhere deeper than memory. Somewhere marrow deep. You whisper, voice cracking. Who are you? The person swallows hard, gripping the cane tighter. I tried to protect you, they murmur. I thought if I stayed and you left, you'd be able to forget. Your skin goes cold. Forget. That word hits you like a blow. Something in your mind shifts, an ache, deep and sharp, the kind that feels like it's been waiting years to break open. The dog whines, stepping once toward the figure, then glancing back at you, as if asking permission or forgiveness. The older person kneels slowly, painfully, until they're level with the dog. Their hand trembles as they reach out and touch its fur. You kept them safe, they whisper to the dog, just like I asked. Your breath snags. Ask. Your words spill out without warning. What do you mean, you know this dog? The older person rises inch by inch, leaning heavily on the cane. When they look at you again, their face softens, like they're seeing someone they've mourned for years. I know everything you're trying so hard not to remember. The room tilts. You take a step back, the projector behind you clattering softly as your hip brushes it. No, you say, shaking your head. I don't, whatever you think I. The cane taps once on the floor, sharp, final. The older person holds your gaze. You promised them, they say quietly. Promised you'd come back before the building closed. Promised you wouldn't leave them alone again. Your mouth goes dry. Them. The child in the photographs. The child in the film. The child who knew you. The child who trusted you. The child whose hand you held. A rushing sound fills your ears, like blood, like gears grinding back to life. What happened here? Your voice breaks. Why would I leave? Why can't I remember any of this? The older person inhales, a slow, wheezing breath laden with years of regret. Because someone made you forget, they say, and someone else tried to make the factory forget you too. The dog growls softly, not at the person, but at the words themselves, as if the truth has weight and edges. You stagger back, gripping the diary so tightly your knuckles ache. Why today, you whisper. Why come now? Why circle today on the calendar? The older person's eyes glimmer with something like sorrow. Because today, they say, is the day everything happened. Your heartbeat punches against your ribs. The floor seems to tilt. You try to force your mind to crack open, to let anything surface. And for the first time, something does. A flash, a sound, a scream, a machine spinning too fast, a hand slipping from yours, a voice yelling your name, the dog barking desperately, a flower falling, a sudden crushing stop. Your breath rips out of you. The older person reaches toward you, their hand trembling. You weren't supposed to remember alone, they whisper. Let me help you. But before you can answer, a loud, violent crash explodes somewhere above you. The ceiling dusts rain down, the floor trembles, a machine in the corner rattles as though something tore through the level above. The older person whirls toward the stairs, cane clutched so tight their knuckles whiten. No, they rasp, not yet, they're not supposed to be here. Your pulse spikes, who's here? The older person turns back to you, eyes wide now, filled with panic. You have to keep going, they hiss. Find the room with the south skylight. It started there, it ended there, that's where the truth is. The dog starts barking, sharp, frantic. Footsteps thunder overhead. Dust rains down in sheets. The older person shoves you toward the hallway with shocking strength. Run! You stumble, catching yourself on the wall as machines rattle violently around you. The dog bolts into the corridor, barking for you to follow. The older person's voice breaks behind you as the lights flicker and the ceiling groans. Hurry before they find you. You don't look back. You run. You sprint down the corridor, your footsteps echoing against the hollow walls, but there's no sense of something chasing you now, just urgency, the kind that whispers instead of screams. The dog runs beside you, close enough that its fur brushes your leg every few steps, not panicked, not frantic, more like it's guiding you, making sure you don't veer into one of the dead-end passages scattered through this maze of a building. When you reach the stairwell again, you pause, breathing heavily, not from fear this time, just from the weight of everything that's been unfolding around you. The dog stops 2 steps above you and looks back, as if waiting for your mind to catch up to your feet. A soft hum pulses through the walls, not the factory's heartbeat. This sound is gentler, almost soothing, like a forgotten tune vibrating through old pipes. The hallway feels less threatening now, more like it's revealing something instead of hiding it. Okay, you murmur, placing a hand on the railing. South skylight, right, we can do that. The dog's ears perk, and it gives a short, encouraging bark, the kind that almost feels like a nod. You follow it up the steps. The higher you climb, the brighter the air becomes, not sunlight, but a faint glow from somewhere deeper in the factory. When you reach the 2nd floor, the oppressive darkness from before feels thinner, softened by dust-filled beams of light spilling from cracked windows. The dog trots ahead confidently, weaving past overturned carts and shelves coated in decades of lint. Its tail sways slightly as it walks, not wagging, but relaxed enough to show the danger has eased for the moment. You pass a row of machines that look like they were left mid-operation, threads still looped through needles, fabric half-finished. It feels as though the workers simply stepped out for a break and never came back. Then you notice something on the ground. A piece of chalk. White, worn short, its tip flattened by a small hand. You crouch and pick it up. The chalk dust clings to your fingers, soft as flour. A memory stirs, faint, hesitant. A child's laugh. A hand tugging your sleeve. A voice saying, no, no, draw here, look. Your breath catches in your throat. You turn the chalk between your fingers, watching the dust flake like tiny petals. The dog nudges your elbow softly, breaking the trance. You lift your head and notice faint chalk drawings stretching along the wall. You recognize the style instantly, simple lines, uneven shapes. The dog, you, and the child, sometimes holding hands, sometimes playing, sometimes waving at someone behind the camera, someone who carved your name, someone who waited for you. You take a slow step back, absorbing the drawings. I was here with them, you say quietly, with both of you. The dog leans gently against your leg, as if confirming it. You move deeper into the hall, following the chalk drawings like breadcrumbs. Each one pulls something loose inside your mind, nothing sharp, nothing painful, just soft echoes, echoes that feel like they've been patiently waiting. At the end of the hallway, the room with the south skylight comes into view. The door stands half open. Warm light spills through the gap, illuminating swirling dust motes like drifting fireflies. The dog walks in first. You follow, stepping into a room that feels frozen in time. Fabric scraps cover the floor like faded confetti. A large skylight stretches overhead, its glass cracked but still catching the late afternoon sun. Colors dance across the walls from old stained panels, reds, yellows, blues, all muted by dust. And at the center of the room, a table. Small, child-sized. Covered in papers, pens, a tiny pair of scissors, and a jar holding a single yellow flower, dried but intact. Your breath softens. The dog pads toward the table and sits beside it, tail sweeping the floor. Its posture changes, not alert, not defensive, gentle, almost reverent. You approach slowly. On the table lies another photograph. You pick it up with careful fingers. This one shows you and the child sitting at this very table, their drawing chalk smeared on their hands and shirt. You're leaning toward them, pointing at their picture with a grin you don't remember ever having. Your other hand rests on their shoulder. Your chest tightens, not in fear, but in something warmer. I knew you, you whisper. I really knew you. The dog nudges your knee again, more firmly this time. When you look down, its eyes shift toward the far corner of the room. Something rests there, covered by a cloth. You hesitate, then walk toward it. As you pull the cloth aside, dust plumes into the air, and a small wooden chest appears beneath it. The lid is carved with swirling patterns you don't recognize but find inexplicably soothing. You unlatch it. Inside are items carefully arranged, protected from time. A tiny shoe. A yellow ribbon. A drawing of the dog. A pressed flower. A note. You lift the note last. The handwriting is uneven, childlike. It reads, "For when you come back, so you don't forget again." Your knees weaken and you sink onto a nearby stool. The room feels warmer suddenly, wrapped in something like remembrance, something that doesn't hurt, it just insists. The dog sits beside you, resting its head gently on your lap. You stroke its fur, your fingers gliding through the warmth and softness. A peaceful quiet settles over the room, broken only by the faint hum of wind brushing past the cracked skylight. For the first time inside this factory, the silence feels gentle. Not haunted, not dangerous, just waiting. Patient, like a friend. You look back at the table, then at the chest, then at the dog curled against your leg. Who was the child to me? You whisper softly. Why did I promise to come back? The dog lifts its head, ears twitching as if listening. Not to danger. To something else. Something returning. Soft footsteps approach from the hallway, slow but steady. You stand, but there's no fear this time, just a quiet expectation. The silhouette at the doorway is familiar. The older person steps inside, lining on their cane. Their eyes fall on the open chest, the chalk, the flower, the drawings. A sigh leaves them, soft, broken, relieved. I hoped, they say gently, that this room would remind you of the beginning. You look at them, heart beating slower now, steadier. The beginning of what, you ask? They might your gaze. The beginning of the promise you made, they whisper, the one you're finally ready to remember. The room feels smaller after the older person speaks, like the walls have leaned in to listen. Dust hangs in the sunlight, slanting through the skylight, drifting slowly between you and them like pale, silent witnesses. The dog stays pressed against your leg, its warmth grounding you. You look from the open chest to the table, to the chalk drawings on the wall, then back to the older person. The beginning of the promise, you repeat quietly. What promise? Their gaze softens. They move closer, each step carefully measured, the cane tapping lightly against the floor. When they reach the small table, their hand brushes the scattered papers, smoothing them as if they're afraid even the slightest disturbance might erase what's left. You started coming here when you were young, they say, not as a worker. As a volunteer, I suppose they called it. A journalist in training, always asking questions, always wanting to write about what people tried to ignore. You blink. It's almost easy to picture. You, younger, hungrier for stories, believing every place, every person deserved to be seen. The factory was already dying back then, they continue. Machines older than the workers, management cutting corners, people being let go quietly, and in the middle of all that. They smile faintly and look toward the chalk drawings on the wall. There was a child who had nowhere else to go. Your chest tightens. Their parents worked here, you guess. The older person nods slowly. Both of them, until the layoffs started, until accidents became normal, until this place began eating people faster than it paid them. The dog stirs as if remembering too. It walks to the wall and sniffs at one of the drawings, a crude sketch of you and the child standing under the skylight, the dog at your feet. They brought the child here to keep them close, the older person says, safer than leaving them alone at home. That dog, their eyes soften as they look at the animal, always watched them, never left their side. You kneel beside the dog, your fingers sliding along its back. And me, you ask, where do I fit into that? You were supposed to be doing a piece about labor conditions, they say, but you kept drifting away from the machines, from the adults. You ended up here in this room over and over again, teaching the child how to draw, how to hold a camera, how to write their name. You stare at the chalk letters scattered across the wall. Some wobble, some are too big, some are backwards. A small laugh escapes you, shaky but real. I taught them to write like that, you ask. Like someone who believed they'd have all the time in the world to improve, the older person replies. You look at the dried flour in the jar. And the promise, you whisper. They watch you for a long moment, as if weighing how much truth you're ready to hold. The factory was shutting down, they say at last. Officially, it was a temporary closure for inspection. Unofficially, they were walking away. The owners didn't want anyone asking what had happened here, especially not someone like you. You imagine your younger self, notebook in hand, scribbling questions management didn't want to answer. You can almost feel the pen between your fingers. They told you not to come back, the older person continues. You argued, you threatened to publish anyway, and when you realized they were planning to close the doors for good, you made a promise. Your heart beats slower now, heavier. What did I say? Your voice comes out barely above a whisper. You told the child you'd return on the last day, they say, before everything shut down. You told them you'd take them out of here for good, show them the city, show them a life where they could draw on real paper, not factory walls. You said they wouldn't be forgotten, not by you. Your throat burns. You turn away, blinking hard as the room doubles for a heartbeat, present overlaid with a ghost of your younger self, leaning over this very table, laughing with someone whose face refuses to come fully into focus. And I didn't come back, you say quietly. The older person closes their eyes. You tried, they answer. You whip your head toward them. Tried. They nod once, slowly. There was an accident in another unit, days before the closure. A machine malfunction. You were there. Workers were hurt. You pulled one of them out. Something fell, hit you hard enough that you couldn't even remember your own name when the ambulance took you. You sink back onto the stool. The edges of the room soften as fragments of sensation push up through years of silence. Shouting. Sparks. A falling beam. Hands grabbing you. White light overhead. This place broke you, the older person says gently. Not just your body. It took your memory and left you outside its walls, clean and quiet, so no one would ask why you were there in the first place. Your fingers curl into your palms. So the child, you whisper, they waited and I never came. Your voice cracks on the last word. The dog nudges your leg, licking your knuckles once as if to steady them. The child waited, the older person says, voice soft but firm, but something else happened too. You look up, heart still heavy but braced for the next piece. There was another accident, you ask. Their jaw tightens, their fingers tap nervously on the cane. The owners decided they didn't want any witnesses left in the building, they say. No workers, no child, no one who could say what really happened here. They locked everything, ordered everyone out. I stayed, I couldn't leave. You glance at the dog. And the dog. They stayed too, they answer. They never understood closure notice or liability. They only understood that the child hadn't left yet, so they waited, day after day, year after year. You stare at the dog's face, the familiar lines, the patient eyes. How is that possible, you whisper, that was decades ago. The older person smiles sadly. Time sits differently here, they say. Some rooms never updated their clocks. Some corridors never learned the new dates. Some hearts, they place a hand over their chest, refuse to move on. The room falls quiet. The only sound is the faint rustle of fabric as the dog shifts closer to you, resting its chin on your knee. So the child, you begin, are they? You can't make yourself finish the question. The older person doesn't answer, not yet. Instead, they walk slowly to the chest, lean down, and pull out one last item you hadn't noticed before, a folded piece of paper tucked beneath the ribbon. They offer it to you. Your fingers shake as you unfold it. The paper is lined, torn from a cheap notebook. The handwriting is messier than the earlier note, more rushed. Some letters tilt or collide, like they were written in a hurry. You read, "If you forget, the dog will remember. If you don't come, I'll wait here. You promised. Please don't let them turn off my sky. Your vision shimmers." The words blur, but you don't need to see them anymore. They've already slipped into you, clicking into a space they were always meant to fill. You look up at the skylight, cracked, smeared with dust, but still letting light through. The south sky presses against it, pale and steady. "Their sky," you murmur. The older person nods. The south skylight was their favorite, they say. They called it their sky because it was the only piece of the world they could see during long shifts. When the factory closed, they tried to shut out that sky too, close it off, seal everything. You swallow around a weight in your throat. But you didn't let them, you say, understanding slowly dawning. "I did what I could," they answer, "kept the door from being welded shut, kept this room from being gutted, kept the dog fed when people said it should be taken away." The dog's ears flick, as if it remembers those days, those hands. You sit very still, the note crumpling slightly in your fist. "So why now?" you ask. "Why circle today? Why tell me to hurry?" The older person leans heavily on the cane. "Because they're coming back," they say quietly. "Not the workers, not the child, the owners, or what's left of them. The company that bought the land wants the building gone before anyone asks what's still inside." Your mind clicks through details with the old familiar rhythm of a reporter's focus. Demolition. Erasure. No records. No traces. "How long do we have?" you ask. The older person lifts their eyes to the skylight, judging the light. "Tonight," they say, "they'll start with the upper levels, then this one, then the ground floor. By tomorrow, there'll be nothing left but rubble and a fenced-off lot." You exhale slowly. So that's the hollow place sitting under everything, not just what you forgot, but what is about to be erased completely. "So it really could all disappear," you say. "Unless someone finally tells the story," the older person replies, "unless someone fulfills the promise they made." You look down at the dog again. "It remembered me," you whisper, "after all this time." "Yes," they say, "and it led you back to the only place that still remembers you too." You stand up, the weight inside your chest shifting, not vanishing, but changing, taking shape, purpose replacing some of the ache. "I can't fix the past," you say slowly. "I can't go back and show up on the day I was supposed to, but I can keep the promise another way." You reach into your pocket and pull out your phone. Your editor's message still glows on the screen. "Get the photos and get out. Don't overthink the human angle. Just give me something that sells." You stare at the words for a long moment. Then you open the camera instead. The dog sits patiently as you lift the phone, eyes bright in the fading light. You take a photo, the dog, the table, the jar, the chalk drawings, the chest. You take another of the note in your hand. Another of the skylight. Then you turn to the older person. "May I?" you ask. They hesitate, then nod. You capture them standing by the chalk wall, a hand resting on one of the faded drawings, the dog at their feet. Sunlight from the south skylight halos the three of you, turning dust into tiny stars. For the first time, the factory doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like a story waiting to be told. A promise waiting to be finally kept. You lower the phone. "I won't run this as a simple abandoned building piece," you say. "I'll write what really happened here, about the workers, the accidents, the child, the dog, you, all of it." The older person studies your face, searching for something. They must find it because their shoulders relax the slightest bit. "The truth will make people uncomfortable," they warn. "Good," you murmur, "it should." The dog lets out a quiet bark, as if in agreement. But underneath your resolve, a question still lingers. A question you can't ignore. You turn back to the older person. "And the child?" you ask softly. "Where are they now?" The older person doesn't answer right away. Their gaze drifts to the far corner of the room, where shadow pools under a sagging beam. "The story isn't finished yet," they say at last. "Not until you've seen the last room." A gentle shiver runs through you, not of fear, but of inevitability. You tuck the note carefully into the diary, close the chest, and straighten. Where, you ask? They tap the cane once on the floor. Below, they reply, at the level where they tried hardest to forget, the place beneath the machines. You glance down through the cracked boards, as if your eyes might pierce through to the lower levels. The dog rises, already facing the door again, as though it knew you'd be going there all along. The older person steps aside, gesturing toward the hall. Come, they say, it's time you saw what the factory kept hidden after it sent you away. The hallway feels different now, not menacing, not dark in the way it was before, more like a long exhale after years of holding its breath. You walk beside the older person, their cane tapping softly on the floor, the dog leading the way with quiet certainty. Your steps echo gently, not sharply. Your breathing stays steady. The building no longer feels like it's waiting to swallow you. It feels like it's ready to open up. Down here, the older person murmurs, turning toward a stairwell half hidden behind a collapsed shelving unit. The metal steps spiral downward, their edges worn smooth by time. The dog waits at the top until you reach the landing, then pads down slowly, making sure you're behind it. Its tail brushes your shin, comforting, grounding. You descend. Every few steps, you notice small details that don't belong in a place left behind. A swept patch of floor, a lantern that hasn't gathered dust, a folded blanket tucked neatly on a crate. Signs of someone caring for this place long after the world looked away. At the bottom, you reach a long stretch of hallway lined with pipes. The air is cooler, thicker, but not unpleasant, more like the inside of a quiet basement than anything ominous. The older person stops halfway down the hall. They rest their hand on a metal door, heavy, industrial, the paint peeling in long vertical strips. This is where they meant to hide everything, they say softly. Not just the accidents, the child's things, the belongings the families left behind, memories they didn't want to deal with. You run your fingertips across the cold metal. A faint vibration hums beneath your skin, steady, soft, like a faraway generator or a heartbeat you can't quite locate. Are you ready? The older person asks. You glance at the dog. It dips its head once as if saying yes, it's time. You open the door. The hinges complain, but the door gives way easily. A soft current of air slips past you, cool but warm at its edges, like someone once slept here. The dog walks in first, tail held gently behind it, paws silent on the smooth floor. You step into a broad, low-ceilinged room. And everything stops for a moment. The room is nothing like the rusted machinery above. Here the floor is swept, the walls partially repainted. Old machines sit safely disassembled along the sides. Wooden crates line one wall, labeled with faded worker numbers, and in the center, a circle of small objects arranged carefully on a table. Children's things. Warm things. Loved things. A pair of tiny gloves. A book with torn edges. A jar of buttons sorted by color. A drawing taped neatly to a clipboard, stick figures holding hands. A piece of red yarn woven into a loose bracelet. You walk closer, heart heavy and gentle all at once. Each object feels like an echo of laughter, soft footsteps, small hands, days filled with things that mattered to a child too much to simply vanish. The older person moves beside you, their voice quieter now. This is where the child spent the last hours before the closure, they say, waiting, drawing, holding on to the promise you made. You swallow, the weight inside you shifting from guilt to something steadier, resolve. I didn't choose to forget, you whisper. I know, they say, but forgetting doesn't erase what mattered. The child understood that. They weren't angry, just hopeful, even after the doors closed. The dog moves toward a low table in the corner and paws at something gently. You follow its gaze. A box sits there, small, wooden, polished by years of touch. You lift it carefully. Inside, wrapped in cloth worn soft with time, lies a small camera, a child's camera, plastic, cracked at the corner, a sticker peeling off the back. Your breath hitches, quietly this time, not from shock but from the soft sting of recognition. They used to follow you with that, the older person says with a faint smile, trying to take pictures the way you did. You encouraged it, said every story deserved to be told from more than one angle. You trace the camera's buttons, worn smooth. When you lift it to your eye, the cracked viewfinder gives a fuzzy, kind distortion of the room. Through that little window, everything seems softer, kinder. You lower it slowly. Did the child leave this room? You ask. The older person inhales deeply. Yes, they say, they went looking for you when you didn't arrive. The dog tried to pull them back, but they insisted. Your chest grows tight, not with fear, but something near the edge of longing. How far did they get? The older person points to a corridor branching off from the main room, a narrow walkway lit by old emergency lamps that glow weakly but warmly. You walk toward it, the dog padding quietly at your side. Halfway in, you notice the walls change. Chalk drawings appear in patches, tiny footprints, stars, flowers, clumsy hearts, and a tall figure drawn with unsteady lines. You. The air thins in your lungs, but not painfully. Just tenderly. You keep walking until you reach the end of the corridor. A door waits there, smaller than the others, the paint brushed over in a hopeful shade of soft blue. The dog sits down beside it, tail curling around its paws. The older person stands behind you, lining on their cane. They weren't afraid, they say. They waited here until the last moment, believing you'd come running down this hallway. You rest your palm against the door. Warm. Surprisingly warm. What's inside? You whisper. The older person steps forward, placing their hand beside yours on the wood. The truth, they say, not frightening, not dark, just what happened next. The parts you couldn't remember because the world pulled you away. Your fingers tremble on the handle, but the dog leans against your calf, steady, warm, reassuring. You breathe in slowly. The air tastes of dust, old yarn, and something faintly sweet, like pressed flowers. You turn the handle. And gently, without resistance, the door begins to open. The soft blue door opens with barely a sound. A breath of warmer air drifts out, gentle and almost comforting, like stepping into a room someone left moments ago rather than years in the past. The dog walks in first, tail low, posture relaxed, not afraid, not tense. It knows this place. You can feel that instantly. You step across the threshold. The room is small but not cramped, quiet but not empty. It feels lived in, somehow, like someone made it a safe corner of the world at a time when the rest of the factory felt overwhelming. Light pours through a small, high window. Dust drifts lazily in its glow. Against the far wall sits a tiny wooden bed, neatly made with a patchwork blanket. The fabric is worn but clearly cared for, each square stitched with a different pattern, stripes, tiny flowers, mismatched colors that somehow belong together. Beside the bed, a wooden crate holding picture books, a jar of ribbons, a stuffed rabbit missing one eye. And on the floor, lined up with deliberate precision, small chalk drawings arranged like stepping stones. The child's world. You kneel beside the drawings. Here the lines are smoother, the shapes clearer, the colors brighter. A red sun, a dog with its crooked ear. Your own figure, tall, smiling, holding a camera. Two stick figures holding hands beneath a big, glowing square labeled sky. Your throat tightens not painfully, just deeply. This was their room, the older person says softly behind you. The workers set it up so the child would have a place to rest while they finished their shifts. When the layoffs came, the room became a waiting place, a hoping place. You touch the edge of one drawing, your younger self and the child standing beneath the skylight. Your hand trembles. I never meant to leave them here, you murmur. I know, the older person replies. The dog nudges a small wooden box near the foot of the bed. You reach for it, lifting the lid with careful fingers. Inside lies a single object. A bracelet woven from red yarn, the same yarn you saw earlier. Its ends are frayed. Its shape slightly crooked, but it's unmistakably handmade. And tied to the bracelet is a tiny paper tag, folded in half. You unfold it. The handwriting is the same as the notes upstairs, wobbly, uneven. It reads, "For you, so you don't forget." Your vision warms, not blurring, not breaking, just softening. You fold the paper gently, holding it close. They made this for me, you whisper. The older person nods. It was the last thing they finished in this room. You look around, taking in the bed, the books, the chalk drawings, the stuffed rabbit, the careful arrangement of objects left behind like a path through memory. What happened after this? You ask quietly. You said they came looking for me. They did, the older person replies, but they didn't get far. The upper levels were locking down, doors were closing, workers were being pushed out faster than they could gather their belongings. They pause, leaning a little heavier on the cane. The child made it as far as the room with the skylight you saw earlier. They waited there for hours, all night in fact. You swallow. It's not a horrible image. Not a frightening one. Just heartbreakingly patient. The dog stayed with them, you ask. Never left their side, the older person says, even when the machines shut off, even when the lights flickered out, even when everything else in the building fell silent. You look down at the dog. It meets your eyes, warm, familiar, steady. A guardian. A witness. A friend. And then, you ask, voice barely audible. The older person takes a slow breath. When the sun came up the next morning, the owners returned. They sealed the main doors. The child stayed here, waiting, hoping you would be the one to open them. Your chest tightens. They weren't alone, the older person continues gently. They had the dog, they had their drawings, they had this room, they weren't afraid. You let out a small breath you didn't know you were holding. They passed quietly, the older person says softly, not from harm, just exhaustion. A child who waited too long for someone they trusted. They fell asleep in this room and didn't wake up. The words settle in your chest, not like a blow, but like a weight long meant to be acknowledged. There is no horror in it. No darkness. Only a gentle stillness. A small life that held on to hope until its last moment. A quiet ending in a room filled with color and warmth. You sit on the floor beside the bed, your back against the wall. The dog presses close, resting its head on your leg. Warm, soft, alive. Carrying years of memory you once lost. You close your eyes. I didn't abandon them, you whisper. I didn't choose to forget. The older person places a hand on your shoulder. No, they say, you didn't, and they knew that. That's why they left all this behind, for you to find when you were ready. They believed you would keep the promise in the only way left. You open your eyes. What way is that? By telling their story, they say, by making sure they're not erased when the factory disappears. A quiet conviction rises slowly inside you, warm, steady, real. Not guilt, not regret, purpose. You take out your phone again. This time you take a photo not as a journalist collecting evidence, but as someone honoring a memory. The little bed, the chalk drawings, the red yarn bracelet in your hand. The dog lifts its head into the frame. A living link between past and present. You lower the phone. A small, peaceful silence settles over the three of you. The older person steps back, leaning against the wall. It's time for the last part, they say, the final room. You stand, carefully placing the bracelet in your pocket. The dog rises next to you, quiet, steady. Your legs no longer feel weak. Your hands no longer shake. Your breathing stays calm. You look at the older person. Where now, you ask? They gesture toward a narrow opening on the far wall, a passageway warm with thin light. Upstairs, they say, to the place where your memories began and where they want you to finish this. You turn toward the passage. The dog walks ahead. And you follow. The passage narrows as you follow it, the ceiling dipping low enough that you have to bow your head. The dog walks ahead of you, its paws whispering over the dusty floor, leading you with the calm confidence of a companion that has traveled this route many times. The older person follows close behind, their cane tapping rhythmically, a steady heartbeat to guide you upward. The air grows warmer as the passage inclines, and a faint breeze brushes your face, not cold, not stale, a soft, fresh current carrying hints of sunlight and open space. You reach the top. A familiar room stretches before you. The skylight room. But now it feels completely different. Earlier it seemed like a place frozen in memory, dim and suspended in the past. Now light pours down through the cracked glass in golden sheets. Dust dances in soft spirals, turning the air into something almost sacred. The dog steps into the sunlight immediately, sitting beneath the broad beam as if returning to a favorite spot. Its fur glows warm in the filtered light, and for a moment it looks exactly like the dog from the photograph, unchanged by time. You walk slowly to the center of the room. The older person remains near the doorway, watching quietly. You said this was where everything began, you murmur, your eyes lifting toward the skylight. It was, the older person replies. This was the child's favorite place, and yours too. You close your eyes. You try to imagine the sound of laughter here, the clatter of chalk, the scratch of crayons across paper, footsteps too light to echo, the dog's tail thumping happily on the floor. And then, like a ripple across still water, a memory loosens. You see yourself, younger, kneeling beside the child as they hold up a drawing beneath the sunbeam. You see the child smile. You hear them say, "This is my sky, but I'll show you yours someday." Your chest tightens, not painfully, but in a way that feels like rediscovering a piece of yourself that once mattered more than anything. When your eyes open again, the dog is watching you, patient, knowing. You kneel beside it, resting a hand on its warm fur. "Thank you," you whisper, "for remembering when I couldn't." Its tail sweeps once across the floor, slow, gentle. A soft clatter shifts behind you. The older person is moving toward the far wall where a metal cabinet sits, its doors slightly ajar. They pull them open with care. Inside the cabinet rests a stack of objects wrapped in cloth. Preserved, protected, waiting. The older person lifts the top bundle and offers it to you. "For you," they say, "this was the last thing the child left in this room. They asked me to keep it safe." Your hands tremble slightly as you unfold the fabric. Inside is a notebook. Small, worn, the cover bent and softened over years. Its pages are filled with uneven lines, penciled sketches, small thoughts, scribbled stories that only children can write. And inside the front cover, written in those familiar wobbly letters, "This is my sky. Now it can be yours too." The breath you draw in is slow and warm, the kind that loosens something deep inside your ribs. "They wanted you to have this," the older person says gently, "not as a burden, but as a gift." You look up toward the cracked skylight. The sunlight slants across your face, bright and soft. The dog moves closer, pressing against your leg, anchoring you. "I thought remembering would hurt more," you murmur. The older person smiles quietly. "Sometimes it does," they say, "but not always. Sometimes remembering fills the empty spaces." You nod slowly, holding the notebook to your chest. "Is this the last room?" you ask. "Yes," the older person says, "and this is where you have to finish the promise." "What do I do?" They point to the beam of sunlight. "Tell the story," they say. "Let it start where it began, with their sky." You lift your phone again. But this time you don't rush. You don't tremble. You take a photograph of the skylight glowing bright through history. Then the chalk drawings, the notebook, the dog, and one final picture, the three of you reflected faintly in the shimmer of dust and light. The older person exhales softly. "The demolition crew will be here soon," they say, "but the factory isn't what they'll destroy. The place that mattered is already here." They tap a hand gently over your heart. "And here," they add, nodding to the dog. The dog leans into your touch. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the sunlight warm your face, letting the memory settle, not as grief or regret, but as truth. A truth that belongs to you. A truth you can finally carry. When you open your eyes again, the older person is standing beside the doorway, faintly smiling. "There's one last thing to do," they say, "and it's not here." You stand slowly, slipping the notebook into your bag. "Where?" you ask. They nod toward the exit. "Outside," they say, where the sky is whole, where you can set the story free. You take a final look around the skylight room. It doesn't feel abandoned anymore. It feels complete. The dog barks softly, just once, as if saying ready. You place a hand on its head. Let's go, you whisper. And together, you walk toward the lights. You climb the final stairwell slowly, not out of fear, but because every step feels full of memory, of weight finally given shape, of a promise rediscovered. The dog walks beside you, shoulder brushing your knee, steady and warm. The older person follows just behind, cane tapping in a rhythm that no longer sounds like warning. It sounds like accompaniment. At the top of the steps, the factory door stands slightly ajar, pushed open by the rising afternoon breeze. Light spills through like a river, soft and golden. Dust dances in the glow as if celebrating something finally set right. You push the door wider. Outside, the world is waiting. Fresh air fills your lungs, cooler, cleaner, gentle in a way that feels almost unreal after the stillness of the factory. The sky stretches overhead, broad and open, the kind of sky that belongs to no building and no memory, just the present moment. The dog steps out first. It pauses just past the threshold, turns and looks back at you, not urging, not warning, simply waiting like it always has. You step out into the sunlight. The older person comes next, shading their eyes as they take in the open space beyond the factory yard. The wind lifts their coat slightly, tugging playfully at the frayed edges. For a moment, the three of you stand together in silence. The world feels bigger now. Not because the factory is behind you, but because you finally understand its story. You lift your face to the sky. Blue stretched thin with soft clouds. Warm light brushing your cheek. A sky as open and whole as the one drawn in chalk by small hands. This was their sky, you whisper. The older person nods. And now it's yours, they say. You look down at the dog. Its tail sweeps the ground once. A small, gentle wag. You kneel and wrap your arms around its neck. It leans into you with soft weight, steady, loyal, alive. Thank you, you murmur into its fur, for staying, for remembering. The dog presses its head under your chin, holding still, as if accepting something it waited years to hear. When you stand again, you pull out your phone. Not for the article, not entirely. For yourself. For the promise. You start recording, not rushed, not polished, but true. You talk about the factory, the workers, the child who made a sky out of chalk and waited with hope, the dog who stayed, the older person who protected what little remained. As you speak, the older person listens quietly, eyes reflecting the sunlight. The dog sits by your side, as still as a statue. When you finish, your voice feels lighter, open, like the sky above you. That's the story, you say softly, not forgotten, not anymore. The older person steps closer and places a hand on your shoulder. They'd be proud, they say, more than you know. You blink slowly, warmth rising behind your ribs. And now, the older person continues, there's only one thing left. They nod toward the road leading away from the factory, the path you arrived on so many hours ago, though it feels like days or years. Take the dog, they say gently. It isn't meant to stay here anymore. Its watch is over. You look at the dog. Its eyes meet yours, not with pleading, not with confusion. With certainty. Like it always expected to leave with you. You rest a hand on its head. Come on, you whisper. The dog stands. The older person smiles, a slow, fragile, relieved smile that makes them look younger for a brief moment. I'll be here a while longer, they say, to watch the air change, to make sure the world doesn't lose what's left too quickly. You nod, understanding more than you can say. You take one final look at the factory. The cracked skylight glinting faintly. Dust drifting lazily through the open doorway. A memory-saturated place ready to rest. Goodbye, you whisper. Then you turn toward the road. The dog walks at your side. The sunlight settles on your shoulders like a gentle hand. And for the first time in years, Perhaps for the first time ever, your chest feels whole. Not because you've reclaimed every memory, not because you fixed the past, but because you honored it. You walk forward, step by step. The dog nudges your leg, staying close. The wind brushes your face. The sky stretches endlessly ahead. A sky meant to be shared. One the child wanted you to see. One you can finally carry with you. As you and the dog take your first steps away from the factory, you speak softly, a quiet promise rising without strain. I won't forget again. And this time, it's a promise you know you can keep.